guys. So I guess I'm supposed to start. Okay. All right. So welcome to the panel. Today we're going to talk about CPTO and how is it going to work in company and stuff like that. So before we kind of jump start, let's jump into introduction. Alexis, do you want to start?
Sure. Well, thank you very much for having me, and really glad to be here. I am an entrepreneur. I've built 2 companies, co-founded Dashlane, the password manager, 10 years ago. Worked mostly on product as a CPO there, even though at the beginning I started coding on the product. And I recently founded another company called Stonely. I'm the CEO of the company, but I also built the tech right from scratch, and I'm taking all the vision from the product and the engineering side. So I'm an acting CTPO, as you wrote.
Thank you. What about Pierre?
Hi, Edmond. Hi, everyone. Very nice to be there. I'm a tech entrepreneur as well as Alexis, not as successful as Alexis, but I am an engineer background, and my latest experience was to be the CPO at ManoMano. ManoMano is the leading e-commerce platform in Europe for do-it-yourself and gardening. And when I left ManoMano, there were about 25 product teams, and when I left, the CTO became the CTPO. So it might be useful for our discussion, and I'm very happy to be there. And I'm starting a new company currently called Will, and dealing with professional fulfillment.
Okay, thank you. Jeremy?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm super excited to be on this awesome panel with, as Pierre said, way stronger leaders and more successful than but I'm excited to get to share the stage. My name is Jeremy Wight. I'm the head of product and engineering at an early stage startup called Base. We have the first platform ever for executive assistants. Prior to Base, I held senior engineering and product leadership roles at a company called InVision. And prior to that, several other more early stage startups. That's where I tend to find myself digging in. So like I said, I'm super excited to be on this panel, and I'm passionate about this topic.
Welcome. And my name's Edmond Lau. I'm a fractional CTO at MossaLabs. And so over the last 12 months or so, I've been helping 3 different startups scaling. And before that, I was CTO and VPE at different startups and been around for a bit, including one of the role that I kind of managing all the product manager as well. So today we're here to talk about CPTO and how this role will evolve in the startup world. So so the first question to everyone here is that why does it make sense to have this role? Does this role depend on the company size, and what are some of the pros and cons of having CPTO at different companies?
Well, I will start, and so I will try to answer why it makes sense and why we are having this discussion now. I think that Marty Kagan will talk tonight, and according to Marty Kagan, creating great products go through discovery, strategy, and delivery. Engineering is more about delivery. Product management is more about discovery and strategy. So creating a CPTO role would unify all this value chain into one single person. And perhaps another aspect that makes sense to create this function is the fact that some functions in the company, especially in the tech department, lie between the engineering business unit and the product business unit. For instance, if you talk about QA, quality assurance, they could be both in the product team and in the tech team, in the engineering team. For instance, at ManoMano, they first started being in the product team, and then they went to the engineering team. But well, at the end, it would make sense that they report to a CTPO that would solve this issue. And I think like the last point that will make sense is that, like, this is my opinion, but I'm in favor of like limited C-suites and a limited number of members in the C-suite. So having a CTPO will like free up the seats in the C-suites. So these are some reasons why it makes sense.
Yeah. Now, if we talk more about when it makes sense in terms of sizes, I think it, like any role, being a CTPO means different things depending on the company and the size of it. If you're in a smaller company, it's more about the execution. The bigger company is more about the story and the strategy and the management of people. One thing that you have in common, I think, is really about holding the vision that makes you go faster and be more efficient at any stage. And also building that empathy for either product and engineering, depending on which side you come from. And the two roles, they feed each other. When you're a small company, knowing where you go helps you anticipate things. When you know what is the vision, of course you can talk if you are 2 or 3, but there are some point you are alone in front of your computer, you have to make the tiny decision, and knowing something that doesn't think important to you if you are just on the one end or the other end will click when you have the overall vision. It will make you take the right decision and anticipate what might be a problem, not now, but in the years to come. And when you're in a bigger company, when you have to tell the story, when you have to lead people, having the full scope and being able to take example from the engineering, from the product, and link them together all the time, explaining that it's all about the product in general, it makes you, I feel like, makes you a lot stronger. Now, are you doing it as one person, as 2 person is kind of a different topic. I think that what makes sense is really holding that piece together. If you're able to mixing that, that's when you are going to be faster at making this, taking difficult decisions as well, and also having people with you that are going to be a lot motivated.
And perhaps, Alexis, you could, for small startups that start, you can save a payroll if you have one single function.
Yeah.
And maybe
big companies, it's quite expensive also as bonus.
yeah, maybe a few dollars too. Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think that Alexis and Pierre shared some great things, and we're all, I think, on the potentially the pro side. There's definitely some pros and some cons, I think, depending on how you look at it and how you organize it. I mean, Alexis, you mentioned the speed factor. I totally agree, and I think that there's a compounding impact there between both speed and alignment, right? One of the most difficult things, right, that you experience within engineering and product orgs is creating that alignment between the two, and what are the things that need to be done to enable the product to, ultimately succeed in the business goals and what we're trying to do. So I think the speed, the alignment, the accountability of having a single person that is ultimately responsible for success is, you can fight with yourself only to some extent. But there's also I think there's also some potential cons that I would be remiss for not mentioning. One, obviously, in the same way, having one point person can be a single point failure if you're not thinking holistically and if you don't have the right person. I think as you both just alluded to, it's hard to find that person, right? There are fewer people that have the competencies to do both of those things really, really well at the level that you need to. And it really does require a team under them to be effective. I think there's also something to note on the diversity of thought in decision making, right? There is a healthy tension between engineering and product at sometimes. Sometimes that can be a negative, but it can also be a positive. So there's the potential there. And then finally, I think as you both kind of mentioned, that hiring of that individual can be very, very difficult. So I think there definitely are a few cons, even though there's, I think, greater pros in this method.
Great. So how do you balance the responsibility and priorities between product management and engineering?
So I'm going to take this one first. In a sense, I would argue that whether it's one person on several or two people, it is very, very important to have a core alignment. And when you do recruit, if you have a CPO and you recruit a CTO or vice versa, you need to make sure that they get along, because they need to work together. You don't want them to be territorial. You know, Pierre, you were talking about the QA. You don't want everyone to say, oh, the QA team should be me because, you know, the quality is more the experience. No. They need to think about their success as one thing if you want it to be successful. I was very, very lucky in my experiences in the past. I mean, at Dashen, I work with one great VP of engineering, one great CTO. We disagreed on many things, but we were complementary. And here, to balance what you said in Saint Jeremy at the end about having two people, it's also, you know, it's not only a question of skills in terms of product and engineering, but it's also in terms of people and on how you behave. I had someone, the CTO of Dashen was really different from me from a personal level, the way he would address to people. And so for some problems or for some others, I could have done his work, he could have done my work, but we knew who would be better at doing it. So if you are able to have these two people make the most of it, and at the same time being very clear about and very aligned about where you want to go, you can also have a great duo. Or if it's on your own, then you just make the most of it with you, and you just need to be very strong with you and also with the people that are going to manage also the different pieces.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think the one thing that I would add there is as you scale up, and you have more experience with this likely than I do, Alexi, and what you just described is, you know, there are going to be times where you're going to have to make trade-offs, right? In the same way, whether you have one individual in this role or two people in this role, you're either going to have the money to make the hires that you need to make, or you're not going to have the bandwidth, right? You're going to have both of these competing things. But being highly aware of, I think, what if you have one leader, and in particular, if you happen to be this leader, what are the things that you bring to the table, or what does that person bring to the table that makes them, you know, exceptional, not just good, but truly exceptional, and building the right team at the right time to complement those skills such that you're able to be effective in you know, both engineering and product.
I think as well, in terms of responsibilities, like if you only have one person, then you will only have the beliefs, the principles of a one person in the whole tech department. Like for instance, I was very in favor of discovery in the company, and well, CTO might not be as much a defender of discovery. So at the end, if there's only one person, there will be only this person's belief and principles apply at least to the tech department. So in terms of a balance, it can matter at the end.
So to extend on that, what are the people and executive dynamics and implication combine the two roles together?
Jeremy, you want to go?
Oh, sure. I'll jump in briefly here. I think you know, one of the things, and this is regardless, right? Whether you have a single person or you know, two individuals handling these roles, but I think it becomes even more critical if it's a single point failure, and that's in your C-suite, which also I think favors having a smaller executive leadership team, is you have to have a very high level of trust, right? If you've got one person that's ultimately responsible for the success or failure of the product, right? How it works, what it does, all of that, like your executive leadership team has to be both healthy, right? You have to have a good dynamic between the functions such that you are both trusting and accountable, right? I think Patrick Lencioni, 5 dysfunctions of a team, there's a lot of things in there, but ultimately, like, to have a single person in this role as a CEO in particular, if you're considering this, you have to find the right person, you have to understand their competencies, and you have to have a great trust in that individual as well as in that executive leadership team.
Yeah, it really depends on the people that you have, because if you think about marketing, for instance, you have some teams, they have head of sales, they have a head of marketing, and some they have a chief revenue officer, and that is doing kind of both. And in a sense, to me, that's kind of the same. It's that you, at some point, as a company, you might have someone that is very good to handle everything, and it's not only a question of vision and everything, it's also a question of management and how you go. If you are more technical, if you're in technical, I mean product and engineering, or if you are more someone that is high level at the strategy level. Taking my example right now, I cannot tell you for sure if at Stony I will hire a CTPO or if I will hire a CPO and a CTO. The reason is I consider myself as being able to hold that vision. And so depending on who I find and how the relationship will evolve, I could be very, very fine working with a CPO and with a CTO and being able to be the person delivering the core message and having these people managing at this stage. But to other company, you might have founders that are a lot less around product and engineering. They're more like salespeople. They know everything about one specific topic. And then for them, having that relay, that person that can hold the product vision is going to be super important. So to me, if you think about your dynamic of your C-suite, it really depends also, I mean, as a CEO of who you are, and as the other about what can be the relationship between the different people, not only horizontally but also vertically. You don't want to have that vision clashing at every level.
In terms of dynamics and people between people, especially in the C-suite, I think when you have both a CPO and a CTO, it's easy for the other members of the team to go and see a CTO like, the CPO told me it was not possible to do this thing. Do you agree? Oh, no, it's possible. Okay, so I will go back and see the CPO telling him that the CTO told me it was feasible. So, you can have this strategy to go and see one another that is much more difficult when you have just a CPTO. Then you would have to go and see the VP of product and the VP of engineering to do that. But well, at the end, normally it should be the CTPO giving the call. So this is dynamics that I don't like and that you can avoid by having a single person in the role.
Okay, great. Well, thank you for answering my questions. So let's jump into the Q&A. I think the first questions on the list right now is that is from Kristen. Will this encourage more in the product and tech functions to themselves become product engineers? Could it open up a new career path for people that want to branch both skill sets in their careers? Alexis, I want to pick on you.
All right. So I think independently of this, I think right now, if you want to be very, very good at product, if you're working on tech product, it's very important for you to understand the tech. And this is the same for the engineering team. You need to understand what is going to be, what matters from a user point of view, why you are doing things. And to me, it's a responsibility for you as a person to grow into each role, not necessarily to be an expert in everything, but to have the empathy and to understand what is going to be the problematic of the other person so that you can better communicate. Then in terms of career, it's going to depend on you and on your skills. You might not become like a great engineer right away when you start on product, but you will have different type of engineers also that are evolving in companies. So that might even, to me, what is going to be very important is that any stage that you are, being able to really understand what is on the other side, so that you know how to help.
My add something. It's like, for me, collaboration is at the core of every successful product-centric company. So, like the frontiers will will disappear at some point between product functions, tech functions. At ManoMano, we had some people coming from the tech team into the product team, from the ops team into the product team. Well, I think the contrary is more difficult, but like the product function is really something that is open to everyone. I personally think you don't have to have any hard skills.
I might add, I think it's a bit cliche to say follow your passions, but if you find yourself being a more product focused engineer, ultimately you're going to do better there, right? I know, I've hired great engineers who were not they weren't super strong in product, right? They were more, very much into technology, and there's going to be a place for that. But I think depending on the stage of the company, like at an early stage company, I tend to hire much more product people that find themselves in the product, because it allows you to go faster and make those sorts of things. But it depends on the type of product, the stage, and all of that. So I would say, I don't think it's necessarily a new type of field or pursuit. It's more a nuance of either an engineer or a product person, right? And it depends on the company, the stage, the type of product you're building, all of those sorts of things. But I would say if you like product and you're an engineer, go deep into it, right? Get really, really good at it, really understand whatever it is. And that's going to help you in your journey.
Okay, great. And the next question from Sergio. In your opinion, which should be the career path for a successful CPTO? Engineering, business, consultant, founder, so on and so forth.
I'm happy to take this one because I think we don't give a shit in a sense. It's whatever you're interested in. I mean, I can, you've seen, I think some people think that when you're an engineer, it's going to be easier to get to product. It might be true. The thing is that I am someone that came more from the product than engineering. And the reason why I started coding very early and everything, but I was not dedicating my time to it. And the reason I started doing it is because when I founded my company, I didn't find anyone that I could relate to, that I could co-found the company with, that would be an engineer. So I decided to do it myself. So I went back to it. I used to be an executive, but I went back to working a lot in it. And that's how I became, in a sense, CTPO, because I wanted it to work. And I co-founded the company with a designer because that was the person that I found. I have seen great product people that became passionate about engineering. I've seen great engineer people that jumped right away into the CTPO role. So I think you should never think that you cannot achieve it because you started from somewhere. Anything that you can learn from one topic or the other, you should just jump straight to it. If this is what you want, and ask that in your company. Nobody is going to tell you, hey, you know what? You're an engineer. Stay with engineering. It's not your job. If that's the case, it's probably not the right company for you, and that's fine too.
I agree with Alexis. There is no career path, but I think it's important to have some strong knowledge of engineering, business, discovery if you want to take this function, because it gives you a perspective about what the others do, what the people that you will manage do, and it will help you understand how they work and what are the constraints that they face. And I think you will be a better manager and better leader if you have this perspective about each function. So even if there is no career path, I would say that it's important to have, for instance, I coded only 2 years, but it really helps me dealing with engineers.
Jeremy, nothing?
They said it. I have nothing to add. I love it.
Fair enough. Okay. All right. So next question. From Shaq. It feels like 2 disciplines: product discipline, tech discipline. Wouldn't it be difficult to be excellent at both? Does it make sense to have a split role so that there is an excellence in both tech and product?
Jeremy, your turn.
as I question about the question, I don't think so. I mean, I would essentially just mirror what I think Alexi really eloquently described is, it kind of depends, right? Like it depends on the type of product you're building, right? Like you need to have, if you're going to be successful in this, I think you have to have some level, and Pierre said this, you have to have some level of depth in both, right? And then in my mind, it depends on what is the team that you build around you, right? Like Alexis said, I did this because I started with a designer. He didn't have to know everything about design, probably had to have a decent understanding of design concepts and user experience, stuff like that, but found a great part there. So, I mean, I personally think that you have to have a depth in both of these, but I think you can bring excellence in both. And I would say, again, it depends on the type of product, but towards you're going to be a better product person overall if you understand technical concepts, right? Like if you understand how to work well with engineers, if you understand, what it is, because I've seen many times product people that didn't have that. And the problem is it can be difficult to build credibility with your engineering teams, right? Like it can be difficult to relate to them. You don't understand those sorts of things, but I'm sure that somebody else probably has a better answer for you.
I think that I would like to jump in because I had this experience directly when I was at an esports startup. I was the CTO as well as the head of product because it's video games, esports. I know the business. My next venture after that was a real estate SaaS, and I can do the engineering side of things, but there's no way I could be a real estate person. Because in order for that role to be successful, he or she actually have gone through like the real estate side of things. So I would not take that role. So I think it really depends on, like Jamie, you're saying, like depends on the product, what you're trying to do, and stuff like that.
And I think that you have some people you can rely on for technical aspects, like a VP of Eng or a VP of product. So you are asked to be a leader, not an IC. And I think it's better to have strong principles that you will spread all over the tech department than any strong knowledge, hard skills.
If I can just say one thing, I am a shitty engineer. I know stuff, I know how to build, but the fact that I have the vision is great. Now, I said that I started at Stoneleigh by creating the code. Almost all my code has been replaced. Every time they can refactor something with my code on it, they do it, and that's fine. It's good. I've got all the skills, and each people have their skill. It's good. You need to find complementary people to work with you.
That's great.
Lexi, you said that really well. My engineers would agree, and I will gladly state that all of the engineers I've hired at my current company, much better engineers than me.
It's good.
Let's see if we can fit one more question. Any advice for a new CPO, especially one joining a company that hasn't ever had the role in the past?
Make them read Inspired.
Okay. Any other quick answers?
The best advice I can ever give to you. So it's free. Take it.
Okay. Great.
Advice I would give to any executive joining a company: talk to anyone. Get as much, be the sponge, get as much feedback from anyone, see what is working, what is not working, where you can help, try to learn. As a CPO, you'll need to carry the vision, and the vision right now has been built without you and has been carried by people that have been there for a long time, and they probably care about the product, probably care about what you are going to work on. So you better at least understand what they feel about it, what they want to do, where there are things that are missing, where there are frustrations, so that you can try to ease this, and so that you can, just step back, make up your mind, and as you build your strategy, or if you are taking another strategy and you need to execute, how you can make the most of it, learn a lot. Just don't be that person that arrives and say, hey, I've seen that in another company, I'm going to do the same thing, and this one never works. Or you are going to be very lucky.
And doing what Alexi just said is going to get you influence. It's going to allow you to build relationships that's going to pay dividends. So totally agree.
Okay, great. I think we time's up. So thank you everybody to joining us for the panel. Thank you, Alexis, Pierre, Jeremy. Thank you everybody.